The prize of the abyss and the price of survival. The strain on the CS Alert was terrifying. Every rivet in the hull seemed to be protesting the impossible tension. The crew of the American ship fought not just the abyssal pressure, but the calculated, strategic pull of an unknown German vessel miles away. In the control room, Professor Finch watched the tension meter on the winch cable oscillate wildly, his calculations screaming that the steel should have snapped 20 seconds ago. Commander Forn, abandoning all pretense of naval discipline, was shouting orders to the engine room, pushing the old Alert past every red line. Then, with a shudder that threw men to the deck, the tension meter plunged. "The line! It broke!" Thorne roared, his voice laced with defeat. "No," Finch corrected, pointing to the sonar screen. "It slipped. The German vessel cut its own line. They were trying to drag us into the trench, and when they failed, they scuttled their own equipment to protect the mothership's location." The frantic, invisible tug-of-war was over. The German deep-sea sled and his high-tech inductive listening coil were now dead weight, settling back onto the seabed. But the Iron Egg, with Liam O'Connell and the engineer inside, was free. "Pull them up! Maximum safe speed!" Thorne yelled. The recovery. The ascent was as brutal as the descent. When the Iron Egg finally broke the gray surface 4 hours later, it looked less like an observation bell and more like a misshapen, salt-encrusted tomb. The steel hull was warped, the paint was blistered, and one of the thick quartz portholes showed a hairline fracture. O'Connell and the engineer were unconscious, suffering from severe decompression sickness, a testament to the fact that the Alert's antiquated decompression chamber was barely sufficient for the depth they had reached. They were immediately rushed below deck, their recovery a race against the crippling, often fatal neurological damage caused by the bends. But they were not empty-handed. The Alert's crew, working on sheer adrenaline, quickly dropped a secondary, lighter recovery claw. Guided by the coordinates O'Connell had radioed in his final moments of consciousness, they managed to snag a single, precious piece of the shattered German apparatus, the inductive listening coil itself. The coil was chillingly pristine, a sleek, silver cylinder no larger than a small keg, sealed with complex pressure-compensating gaskets and stamped with barely visible Reichsadler markings. It was a masterpiece of deep-sea engineering, proving the Germans had invested vast resources in securing the Atlantic listening post. Finch immediately began the forensic analysis on the Alert's small, hastily converted laboratory bench. The device's internal components revealed the stunning sophistication of the German plan. The coil was designed to operate autonomously for weeks, silently intercepting the telegraphic carrier current that ran through the copper core of Cable E. It was a digital ghost, a silent eavesdropper that left almost no physical trace. Intelligence fact: this discovery was immediately classified as Operation Sea Snare by the British Admiralty and became the key factor in justifying massive, secret U.S. resource allocation to the Allied cause long before Pearl Harbor. It was tangible proof that the Nazis had extended their war directly into American-controlled commercial territory. The recovered coil was the single most valuable piece of German technology captured up to that point in the war, outranking even the occasional downed aircraft part. It provided the Allies with crucial information on German deep-sea metallurgical science, and most importantly, the frequency and power consumption of the tapping device. Finch realized that by altering the power output of the target cables, they could effectively blind the German coils, forcing them to use more power, thus making them easier to locate. The immediate victory was tempered by the chilling realization that the German ghost ship was still out there, its location unknown, and its mission almost certainly continuing. While the Allies had secured a technological prize, the enemy had severed one of the most vital transatlantic arteries. Communication had been disrupted, and the clock was ticking to complete the splice and restore Cable E. Jack Callahan's Gambit.
Back in New York, Jack Callahan, the chief of operations who dealt in commerce, not espionage, received the cryptic message confirming the recovery of the device and the damaged cable. Shipment AE recovered. Cargo damaged. Repair must be swift. Immediate need for gutta percha grade 6. Gutta percha grade 6 was the code for a full military-grade splice, a complex, months-long undertaking that would require massive investment and, crucially, a highly public movement of resources that could blow the cover of the entire operation. Furthermore, the German-owned cables, pre-war Germany held interests in a few older lines, were suddenly seeing a massive, unexplained spike in traffic, messages routed through neutral Spain and South America. Callahan instinctively grasped the second front of the war, the financial front. He realized the Germans were using the severed Atlantic cables as a diversion while they desperately attempted to reroute their global financial and intelligence operations through the less monitored Southern Hemisphere lines. Callahan had to act publicly as a businessman and privately as a military operative, all while maintaining the farce of U.S. neutrality. He executed a bold, nearly illegal gambit. He instructed his financial team to artificially drive down the price of gold futures on the New York market. This created a sudden, massive panic sell-off. Then, using shell companies tied to his British intelligence handlers, he began quietly buying up the financial capacity on all South Atlantic cable lines, booking massive, fake commercial transactions, effectively clogging the financial arteries the Germans were trying to exploit. "Let them think we're worried about money," Callahan growled to his closest, most trusted confidant, a telegraph operator named Martha Quinn, who was secretly a communications analyst for the FBI. "While they're calculating stock losses, we'll be splicing the damn cable back together." The cable war was now fully engaged. A desperate race in the abyss, a silent analytical fight in the lab, and a loud, brazen battle for financial domination waged on the floor of the New York Stock Exchange. The prize was not territory, but the speed of information, and the fate of the entire Allied war effort hinged on the ability of a few engineers and bankers to outwit Hitler's deepest, most hidden hand.